Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this 5-part Premiere Pro class. In today's video, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you go and check it out. We covered all the basics. In today's video, we're going to have a look at the timeline toolbar, how to control your audio in your timeline, a few keyboard shortcuts, and the most important settings when setting up a sequence. Let's jump into the computer. One of the most important things that I didn't cover off in yesterday's video is your sequence settings. So if we go down here to our little new item bar and we go new sequence, and you get this kind of tab thing that pops up. All these down here are all presets. What I suggest we just go with is we stay with the ARRI preset, and it will depend on what area of the world you live in or what frame rate you shot your footage in. But most of the time, if you're in Australia or you're based off a PAL operating system, you want to be in 25 frames. So click on 25 frames, 1080p if you're shooting in just standard HD 1080, or if you're shot in 4K, then you can open up 4K timeline. Across in here is all the general information, tells you about the preset. But if you go across to settings here, what you can do is you can break down the preset and pick sort of specific things that you want. Probably a bit too complicated for the level that we're at, but just stick to your ARRI Cinema, 25 frames a second. Here is where you can change your aspect ratio. So 1920 by 1080, 16 by 9 is your standard, say, YouTube or TV size ratio. So a ratio for a 4x5 Instagram post is 1080 by 1350, or then if you just want a square, it's 1080 by 1080, and then you can flip these back and forth depending on what you want. But for now, we will just stick with a 1920 by 1080. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Make sure you have your time code set up. Sample rate's all fine to stay the same. Make sure that your video previews match your video size. All this we can fix later. You can save your preset if you want to come back to this and not have to worry about it, but I just stick with the standard ARRI preset. And then sequence name down here is video 2. You can call this whatever you need to call it. So now down here we have a new sequence. So to start off this video, we're going to jump down into the timeline and I'm going to talk you through the main timeline tools that I use. I'll leave a few out that I don't find super duper relevant to a lot of simple editing that I do, but the main ones I use are as follows. So first things first, here we have just our selection tool. Now our selection tool you can get by hitting V on your keyboard. So the keyboard shortcut for the selection tool is V. Here we have our track select forward or our track select back. If I have some clips down in my timeline and I want to split them up, so I've just cut through that timeline. Now if I click A, which is track select forward here, so the keyboard shortcuts are actually next to the tool if you hover over them or hold your click. What this means is if I click the second clip in the timeline, it will move everything this way. There we go, like that. So it's super easy if you need to make a gap in the space. It moves everything down the timeline really quickly. Now if I hold Shift A here, that will allow me to move a track backwards. I'll be honest, I don't really use the Ripple Edit tool very often. I don't think it's a tool that is worth really worrying about. Next down here we have our Razor tool. Now if you use any other editing software, even like iMovie, what it allows you to do is it allows you to cut up your tracks. This is a keyboard shortcut of C, and it's probably the most used keyboard shortcut I have, and it allows me to just go all butcher on my timeline clips here and kind of just, you know, make it all a mess and turn them all into separate clips. Now if I just get rid of all those cuts, I don't want all those cuts there, we'll Command Z them back. Command Z is undo. Another little keyboard shortcut in there. Cool, now back to the start. The next tool that I use on a daily basis is the pen tool. This pen tool is really helpful for picking in and out points of audio, also picking opacity points, so how transparent you want your image to be, and even a little bit more complicated stuff like time remapping. So if I just double click here in my timeline and bring this up bigger, and if I hit P on my keyboard to bring up the pen tool here, what this allows me to do is put pinpoints in my timeline, and just by doing that, I'm able to control the opacity, the fade in, fade out. Another great thing you can do with the pen tool is if I just drag in an audio clip here, I'm able to manipulate the audio levels. So just with a few hits of the pen tool, I've been able to really change the sort of intensity of the music and the audio levels. Another thing that I wanted to quickly just drop in here while I'm on audio is a keyboard shortcut of G. Now if I get rid of all these points by clicking and deleting, G on your keyboard stands for gain. Now if you hit G on your keyboard, what you do is bring up a little tab called audio gain. Now you've got a few different options here. I use the adjust gain by clicking on here. What you can do is if I have talking audio track, then a music audio track beneath it, I want to make the audio quieter, so less gain, to be able to make the interview stand out. So I would usually bring the music track down by say 15 to 20 decibels, and you can see that the waveforms change down here. This instantly makes it so much quieter, meaning that it puts a little bit more emphasis on the interview or the main talking track rather than the song, which usually it's just a backing song anyways. Then I can pair it with the points, and then when they finish talking, I'm able to bring it up a bit and then fade out or end the video with a bit more music. So another tool that I use a lot is the type tool. So if I just click here and start typing here, you guys may not have this panel open here. This is called Essential Graphics. Now what you want to do to open that up is you want to go up to Window and then just down here go Essential Graphics. Now this will allow you to make a lot of changes to your text. Essential Graphics also where you make titles and stuff, but we'll go into titles and the Essential Graphics panel in more detail in another video. But just for now, this is how you can just make very simple adjustments to your text, like aligning them to the center, top, bottom, middle, all those sort of things, and then quick movements also. So that's a super handy tab to have open. That's it for the timeline toolbar. And we've already covered quite a few keyboard shortcuts. For other keyboard shortcuts, just search in Google keyboard shortcuts. And what you can do, if you come over from another editing software or have certain layouts of your keyboard that you preference, you can go up to Premiere Pro at the top here and hit keyboard shortcuts. And this brings up a whole range of different things you can do here. I have my own custom layout of presets there that I've picked based on little sort of favoritisms I have around how I edit. You can manipulate your keyboard shortcuts however feels most comfortable to you. That's it for this video, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Maybe you learned a thing or two that you didn't know about Premiere Pro before. In tomorrow's video, we'll be going through the effects and effects panel that's built into Premiere. We'll be going through the basics of the Lumetri color tab and also keyframes. So it's going to be a super valuable one because a lot of people don't know how keyframes work. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for a super jam-packed lesson. See you guys then. God, am I even recording audio? I want to die. That was horrible.